Hello, and welcome to the deconstruction and developer walkthrough of tanks. My name is Christopher Cork. I'm the developer behind this demo. I made everything in it, the tank, the physics, everything you see, except for a single particle shader which causes billboards to face the screen, but I'll go more into that later. I made this demo in XNA and DirectX in order to experiment with the technology and show off what I was capable of. I made this game as sort of a tech demo. As you can see, here we go. It uses the Xbox 360 controller, and you can download it from my website, www.metallicstudios.com. Alright, so since this is mostly a tech demo rather than a full-featured game, I'm going to take you through some of the features and technical aspects behind it, and just show off what makes the game tick. Alright, so I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to switch over here to 3D Studio Max. Alright, so we got 3D Studio Max loaded up here, and this is my tank. I'm pretty proud of it. I'm not really a full-time modeler or anything, but I wanted to have something really nice to put in my game. I mean, if I'm only going to have 2 tanks or whatever, I may as well make it look good. So I spent quite a few hours on it. You'll notice the poly count is a little high, but that's mostly because I figured I wanted to see what XNA could handle in terms of a single model. If I go in here, we'll just there we go. Let me get some wireframe. You'll notice the back is overly modeled, like these fuel cans here. They probably have more polys than the entire turret. Also, the treads are probably too high poly, etc., etc. And that's because I wanted it. I didn't know for sure if I was going to make a 3/4 view game like this, or if I was going to go isometric. So I wanted the tank to look good from all aspects, maybe to be used in cutscenes and whatnot. So I modeled this tank in about 6 hours from reference photos. The new 3D Studio Max is really sharp, and when you export it as an FBX, XNA just picks it up right away, slaps the textures on there and whatnot. I mean, I had to texture map this thing, but as soon as you have it looking nice in 3D Studio Max, what you see is what you get in XNA, which is really nice. It really makes development a treat. So now you've seen the tank. Now you get to see what I'm going to do with it. So I'm gonna bring you over to Visual Studio for a minute. I'm going to show off the second half of this demo, the Destructible Walls. So here we are in Microsoft Visual Studio. This is where I created the Destructible Walls portion of the tech demo. What I wanted to achieve was something similar to what we get with voxels. However, I wanted to do it inside of an application that uses polygons, like XNA and DirectX. So what I did was I created a small little application, which what it will do is it'll take a 3D volumetric area, like this, where I've got 10 by 10 by 10 cube, and it will skin it with polygons. So you can still have sort of a voxel effect, but using only, using the strengths of polygon rendering. So if I click play here, you'll see that I've got a cube. Now this cube represents my 3D volumetric data, 10 by 10 by 10, but it's represented by only 12 triangles, 6 sides of the cube divided in half triangles. So what's happening here is it's taking my volumetric data and then just skinning it on the outside, in this case, with polygons. Now I don't have any destruction yet, so I'm just going to blow away some of this. And now you'll see that I've got a nice chunk blown out of this cube here. It went so fast because I've got my little cursor here set to machine gun. That just makes things easier. I don't have to click a million times. So what's happening is it's taking my 3D volumetric data and it's making passes through the data. So first it'll do all the sides on this side, then it'll do the tops, then it'll do the bottoms, then the front and the back. And as it steps through, it generates the most optimum set of polygons. So in this case, I'll blow out these to make it more obvious. Alright, there we go. So now what it's going to be doing at this point is there's a vertex point here, 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 and there. So that is one giant cube, or square, sorry. And then it makes one there, and then one there. So that this face here, despite the fact that if it was made up of voxels, it would be made up of tons of triangles, in my case it's only made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That way I can limit the number of triangles I'm using. So you'll actually see as I blow through this cube here, I'm making the number of triangles go up, but eventually, because I'm deleting surfaces, the number will go back down. So I'm just going to get rid of a few more here, and it'll go back down to 300 something. There you go. 274. Because I've blown away a bunch of those complicated surfaces. Now what's happening here, it can run really fast because the volumetric data is not what's actually being used to run the game. What happens is I've got the volumetric data, but that's only used to generate the vertex data. So the vertex data is what I'm actually manipulating here when I'm turning the camera and clicking on things and doing hit tests and depth tests. I'm only using my vertex data. So what happens is that very complicated 10 by 10 by 10, so 1,000 points, is only being used when I actually click. When I click, what's happening is it's going in and turning off cells of that volumetric data. It's turning ones to zeros. Then what happens is my compiler, it goes through the entire 3D volumetric data one at a time and generates a new vertex map. Once it generates that vertex map, it then draws the cube to the screen and then uses that vertex to take care of everything until I click again. At which point it regenerates the volumetric data and then regenerates the vertex map. That way the CPU cycles are only taken up when I actually click, and when I'm drawing, all I'm using is a very limited vertex data. So it's actually very efficient. On that note, I have an older build which shows you the guts of the program. So what I have here is a cube that is pretty much optimally destructed. I want to do a test where a cube is at maximum destruction, because once you start destroying it too much, the number of triangles that make up the cube goes down again. So this one's actually pretty destructive. And you can see, if you look here, you can see how the basically my application, it automatically subdivides all the surfaces using a hopefully an optimized path. Oh, you're getting a preview there. I wanted to leave that for the big reveal. Now the reason why it's running at 24 FPS, normally it gets a solid 30, but the desktop recording software doesn't like my laptop too much. But normally I'll get a solid 30 on this, and which is really impressive when you consider that I've got this many of the cubes in here. So I wasn't lying when I said it runs very fast. I can actually make whole destructible terrains with this technology because it only actually slows down when you have to regenerate the cube. So as long as you generate the cube during your loading phase of your game, it actually will display and run and manipulate very fast. It's because all it's doing is basically using a display list of vertex points, which DirectX and XNA are really good at doing, and it only recalculates those vertex datas when you actually have to destroy the cube. So you'll notice in my tank game that it runs really, really fast, because the only time that it recalculates and uses a lot of CPU is when you're actually blowing holes in the cube. So I hope you enjoyed this small look into the destruction portion of my game. And now I'm going to show it to you in practice in the actual game. So here we go, we're moving over to the demo itself.